Hello and welcome to the IICRC Certified Firm webinar. Today we're welcoming industry veteran Chuck Violand to discuss the 5 steps of managing a small business. In today's presentation, Chuck is going to discuss how business owners can get an edge in profitability and growth. For those of you who don't know Chuck, he is a respected authority on entrepreneurial small businesses, having spent over 30 years as a business consultant and executive coach. He's also an author, keynote speaker, and past president of the Restoration Industry Association. At the end of the program, we're going to hold a brief Q&A. So if you have any questions throughout the program, please enter them into the little question box on the right hand of your side of your screen, and I'll keep track of them until the end of the presentation. And with that, here is Chuck.
Thank you, Jennifer. I want to thank you for inviting me to be here, and Richard as well. As I mentioned when you and I were chatting, Richard Green saw me give this presentation in Australia earlier this year and suggested that, I really want you to give this presentation to our constituents at IICRC. So naturally, I was thrilled when you invited me to give it. Today, the presentation is on 5 steps of managing a small business. And just let me give you a quick overview of this. This is based on a book that was published several years ago by a couple authors, Ram Charan, Steve Drotter, and James Knoll. The name of the book is The Leadership Pipeline. And in that book, the authors outline 7 distinct stages or steps of leadership in large international organizations, multi-billion-dollar companies. Since I had been working with small businesses and have worked with small businesses most of my career, I took a look at it and realized, there's really 5 of these steps that apply to small businesses. And when I'm saying small businesses, I'm referring to companies doing roughly $50 million and under. So most of the people that I work with, well, just about all the people that I work with are under that threshold. But these 5 steps do apply to that. And so by being aware of the steps, I was able to help my clients not only navigate the step that they were on, but prepare for the next step. And anytime you're going to grow in a business, there's going to be pain, there's going to be risk. So if you can mitigate both the pain and the risk by understanding what that next step involves and preparing yourself for it, it just makes things a whole lot more fun in business and a whole lot more profitable. I asked Jennifer, as she had mentioned, she was going to take a look at the questions at the end, and I'll entertain questions at the end. If you have a question that you feel really needs to be answered at that point, and I'm going to let Jennifer be the judge of that, she's going to go ahead and interrupt me as I'm presenting, just so that I can address it at that time. So with that said, let me just go ahead and get started in here. The 5 steps that I'm going to be referring to are something that all of us experience in business. Now, please keep in mind, I own a small business too. My business just does different things than cleaning or restoring. But nonetheless, all of these lessons, all of these steps apply to Violand management as much as it might to your own organization. So the 5 steps look like this. When you go into business and you start your business, you have your foot on two of the steps. You have your one foot on I manage myself, and the other one is I manage the business. So not only when you started your business did you have to manage your own activities, your own behaviors, your own disciplines, but you also had to make some decisions at the outset. Is this business going to be sufficient to meet my own personal needs, to achieve the things that I want to achieve? Can the industry support the things that I want to achieve in my own life? So you've already got your foot on 2 different steps, myself and the business. And then as your business continues to grow, these other steps start to appear. And they appear at different places in the business. Now, something that you want to keep in mind as I'm going through this is these steps apply not only to you, they also apply to the people in your organization. So everybody is on one of the steps at all times in your business. And I'll go into a little bit in more depth than that at the end of the thing. So you start out with I manage myself. Your business grows, and then you add workers. You go out and you work and you do good, you provide good service, you follow up, you make sure everybody's happy, your business grows. At some point, many of you decide, you know what, I want to bring people on. So this is typically when we, as the quotes go, get off the truck. We get somebody else on to do the work for us. So now, rather than just managing our own behaviors, now we're looking at managing the behaviors of the people who work for us. So we do that, and it thrives, and the business continues to grow. And as our business grows, all of a sudden, I can no longer manage all of the people in my organization, so now I need to manage managers. This is a huge step. I know, and I'll point this out again later on, but I know in this particular graphic, it looks like it's an identical step to all the other ones in size. The fact of the matter is that this is an enormous step for almost all businesses in any industry. When you consider, depending on whose numbers you read, when you consider that anywhere from 90 to 94% of all businesses in North America never scale above $1 million, that's about the dollar figure that we're talking about here, at about $1 million. So they never quite get over that step. Now, that's not good or bad. It's not a judgment call. It's just a fact. And in my personal opinion, I think one of the main reasons is because many small business owners just don't want to. They don't want the grief, the aggravation that comes with managing an organization that size. But if for those who do want to scale above that, then that is a much bigger step than it appears in this particular graphic. But for those who do scale above it, then they get to a point where they've mastered or at least gotten some level of skill at that level. And then we move to that next step, the fourth step. And the fourth step is managing different functions. I'm going to articulate these to you right now. So I don't know if you've got a pencil in your hand and you want to write these things down. Sometimes it might be helpful just to capture some of this. There are basically four functions in cleaning and restoration businesses: admin and accounting, HR, sales and marketing, and operations. I'm going to say those again because I said them very fast. The first one is administration and accounting. That's the bookkeeping, it's the answering the phone. You're probably rolling customer service in there. And quite frankly, when our businesses are smaller, we also roll HR in there. In many businesses, under even $5 million in revenue, normally the HR function is handled by the office manager or somebody in the office. So we have admin and accounting. Then you get into HR. As your business gets larger, the human resource needs become bigger, compliance, development, all of these things become much larger in your business, so that becomes a separate function. Then we have sales and marketing. That's the third function, sales and marketing, and that has to do with getting the phone to ring, basically. What are the things that we do to make the phone ring so that we can grow our business? The fourth function is operations. That's where we actually perform the work that's being done. Every business has these. And so the different functions, the key there is that as business owners, we're never going to be experts in all of those, I should say. Most people in this industry, most business owners in this industry, and I know this is a broad brush, but most owners in this industry come up through operations. We started out cleaning, restoring, and that was the function that we understood best. We weren't particularly good at accounting or administration or HR, and some of us were very good at sales and marketing, but normally operations. The key at the different functions, at that fourth step, is to realize that while I can't be an expert in all of them, I need to understand each of them well enough to be able to set expectations, set targets, and learn how to get them to function together in the same sandbox to produce profit. And then, of course, the fifth step is I'm managing the entire business. So we started out, again, with one foot on I manage myself, the other one on I manage my business. As the business continued to grow, these steps came in, we get stretched. And as business owners, we are stretched. We know we're in pain, and a lot of times we don't understand why we're in pain. And we don't understand how to correct it if we are in pain. And by being able to visualize this, it helps a lot of people say, oh, okay, so here's what I need to be working on. So I'm going to go deeper into these things right now. But before I do, I wanted to show you a card that I would be happy to share with you. This is a card that we give to a lot of our clients and a lot of other people where we do this presentation. It's a wallet-sized card to go in your wallet, so you can pull it out and refer to it from time to time. And I want to go through these, and the reason I want to go through these questions very quickly is because as we go through the presentation, I'll refer to this occasionally, but also you can be able to refer to it. So they're basically 5 questions. Oh, incidentally, if you're interested in receiving this card, simply email me at office. You can see it on there, office@violand.com. We'd be happy to send you some copies of this so that you can have them and you can pass them out to people in your organization. So here are the 5 questions. The first one is the activity I'm engaged in right now appropriate to at least my current step on the management staircase? So now think about yourself. Are the activities that you're doing on a daily basis appropriate to what you should be doing on a daily basis after you understand what those things are on the different steps? Second question, who will perform this activity when I'm not here? So who should I be developing to do it now? Too many times as small business owners, we are so caught up in just trying to keep our heads above water, just trying to meet customer demands, employee demands, that we don't think about succession. And succession doesn't just happen when we decide we want to exit the business. Succession needs to happen throughout your organization all the time. But a lot of times we don't devote the time to develop those people behind us so that the business is not dependent on us. And then we get into the third question. What am I learning by performing this activity? Whatever activity it is. Okay, will the lessons prepare me for the next step of management, or am I just repeating an activity because I'm comfortable doing it? We all have our own comfort zones, the things that we're familiar with, the things that we're comfortable doing. And it's easy when you own a business to fall back into the patterns of defaulting to those activities. But a lot of times they're not productive, particularly to that next step of management. So we constantly have to challenge ourselves. Why am I doing a particular activity? Is it because I'm comfortable? Or should I be training somebody else to do it so that I can move on to that next step? The fourth question is the activity I'm engaged in preparing me for higher steps on the management staircase, or is it limiting me to the step I'm on? Again, I'm going to go back to we're all on a step on the staircase. And you're either facing up or you're facing back. If we're continually facing back, doing work that somebody else should be doing, then by default, we are not facing forward and we're not moving up the staircase. So we can't, so we're holding ourselves back. So it's critical, again, I'm going to go back to the succession thing, but it's critical that we have people on board that we can develop and that we do develop so that we allow ourselves to turn around and move up that staircase. And then the last one, I gave this talk recently to a group, and the guy made the comment that the fifth question is probably the best one. So the fifth question is, would I pay an employee an executive salary, or would I pay myself to perform this activity? And if not, then why am I doing it? And too many times as business owners, we don't take the money that we earn seriously. We don't realize that really we have a responsibility to have a return on our investment, our personal investment, on a regular basis by paying ourselves. And so we do lower level activities, once again, because I'm familiar with it or comfortable doing it, but I would never pay somebody else to do that. So the question we need to be asking ourselves is, would I be doing it? Would I pay somebody else? Would I pay me? And if not, then why am I doing it? So with those 5 questions, let's go into the next, a little bit deeper into the presentation and just take a look at it. I wanted to lay out, I thought a good place to start would be to lay out org charts for different size companies. And a lot of times we learn visually, we're high visual learners, and so I thought that this might help everybody better understand where we hit these different steps on the staircase. I want to make sure that that you don't etch these numbers in stone. I'm going to give you dollar figures for the different steps, but they fluctuate. depending on the revenue streams that you have, depending on the experience of the owner. So I want you to be careful as I give these parameters out. When I'm managing myself, this is typically an owner-operator. It can either be somebody who is just starting the business, or it could be somebody who's in the business and they've been in it a while, but they just choose to be a solo operator. I mean, it's pretty clear-cut. You are the business. Everything revolves around you. But you don't want to check out of the rest of the presentation, because even as the presentation moves on and as the requirements increase, they still apply to an owner-operator. Your business grows, and now we start adding people. Typically, we see this happen, and again, it can happen in a lot of different places, usually about $250,000, sometimes even before that. A lot of people get into the business with the intention of instantly growing it, not being the person at the end of the wand. And so this is going to happen much sooner. It's going to happen at $1, actually. But usually we see this around $200,000, $250,000. We start bringing people into our organizations. And so our job shifts. It goes from managing my own behaviors to managing the performance of people around me. So we do this, and we stick with this a while, and the business continues to grow. And then at about, usually we see this one come into play at close to $1 million. Now, in cleaning and restoration businesses, it happens anywhere from about $750,000 in revenue up to about $1 million. That $1 million mark continues, for some reason, continues to be a real threshold. It's a watershed number. And a lot of things change in your business as you approach $1 million. And they need to change in your business as you approach $1 million, because it runs out of you. There's not enough of you to go around the way that you did when your business was smaller. Down under, when it was under $750,000. Under $750,000, you were in direct contact with everybody on a daily basis, sometimes several times a day. As your business continues to scale, that's not always going to be the case. The analogy that I like to use for this is when you have kids. I happen to have 4 kids. They're grown adults now, but I have 4 kids. And I learned a lesson. My wife and I learned a pretty profound lesson. And if you have 3 kids or more, you might have learned the same lesson as soon as you had that 3rd child. When you have 2 children, you're in charge. The parent is in charge. You've got one on each hand. And so they're going to go where you go. As soon as you have that 3rd child, you've run out of hands. And now you've got one out there running off the leash somewhere. And so you have to learn a different set of skills. It's no different in your business. As your business approaches $750,000 in revenue, you find yourself running out of hands. There's not enough of you to go around. Where you might have been able to go out when your business was smaller on a Thursday or a Friday when you were going to be short on payroll, you could do enough cleaning. You could collect enough receivables to meet that payroll. As your business gets above that threshold, that's not possible anymore. There's not enough of you to do that, to make that happen. And the same thing is true with covering routes for your technicians, or fixing equipment or mechanical breakdowns. There's just not enough anymore. So we have to start relying on other people in our organization who we promote into either supervision or management positions. So you make that. That's that 3rd step that is so big. And if you decide that I'm going to commit whatever it takes to move above this, then you do that, and the business continues to grow. And as your business continues to grow, your organization continues to expand. And now this is the 4th step, where we're managing different functions. Now, typically we're seeing, actually you see this anywhere from about $1 million, $1.5 million up. So it's just managing the different functions. Your accountabilities, your responsibilities here change a little bit, but the actual step doesn't change much. It pretty much stays the same. But at this point, you see where you start to have defined management positions. This is where your executive team really starts to gel, or it doesn't gel and you have a miserable job. But this is where you want your managers to really gel as a team. And that's what makes work so rewarding, actually. Then you get to the I'm managing the entire business. The game continues to change at this level. The business just continues to scale. But what you find at this level is that you're not asking the same questions that you used to ask when your business was smaller. And when your business is smaller, you're constantly searching for how to do things better. And while that never ends, a new question comes into play, and that is, should we be doing this at all? Maybe we just need to decide, you know what, we can no longer afford to do a particular service or a particular line with the profit demands that the company this size has. So those are the 5 steps in organization chart format. So let's go back to the staircase and see how this thing plays out. And I want to show you the things that you as the CEO and that I as a CEO need to constantly be asking ourselves and focusing on at the different stages of our business. So we're going to go to I manage myself. We're going to start there. So what's the profile of a company that's at stage 1? And that is where I'm managing myself. So let's give this technician a name. I don't know if there's any Sams on the phone, on the webinar, but let's name this guy Sam. Okay, and think back to when you started your business. That's Sam. Okay, Sam is all upside, and there's nothing that's going to stand in the way of this guy. He's energy, he's driven mostly by adrenaline and excitement, and this business is just going to scale, and he's going to become rich and famous. So when we're at this stage, the key thing is to manage myself. For those of you who are solo operators, you understand vividly the importance of managing your own behaviors. That isn't going to change. The behaviors you manage might change, but that isn't going to change. We always have to manage our own behaviors. So when we look at the profile, it's highly entrepreneurial. Sam likes it that way. Okay, he likes to be in charge. He likes to make the calls, doesn't want to be responsible to employees. He kind of likes this gig, so he's good, at least at this stage. His business is me-focused. Now, I want you to pay attention to that because the me part is going to change. And here's what the me means. Think about Sam. And Sam goes out and cleans a carpet or does a job for a customer. And the customer calls up and says she's not happy. Now, Sam takes that pretty personally. She probably didn't pay yet because she wasn't happy. And now Sam is going to figure this out by asking her. So first of all, she didn't pay. So Sam doesn't have the money. And he takes that personally. He was planning on that cash to make his car payment, to buy groceries, to buy supplies. He didn't have it because the customer didn't pay. He takes it personally. The customer said she wasn't happy. She was hoping that she was going to have a better job. Sam took that personally. He was the guy that cleaned it. And folks, at this stage of the game, we all think that we're the best cleaner in town. Every one of us. Even if we're brand new to the industry. We don't take into account the experience and the education that a lot of our competitors have. We think we're the best. So we have a lot of ego wrapped up in this thing. So it's a very me-focused business. It's also a high-service, low-wage model. Many small businesses, and I would venture to say that most in the cleaning and restoration industry, are started on a high-service, low-wage model. That comes from a book called No Man's Land by Doug Tatum. And what that means is just that. If you take a look at that, who was it that was providing that high customer service? It was Sam. I mean, Sam took great pride in the work that he did. We take great pride in the work that we do. And who was it that's providing that low wage? It's Sam. Sam will do any job, any size, anywhere, anytime, just to get paid. He's got bills due the next day. He's got to collect that money and deposit it so he can pay those bills. So he'll work crazy hours just to collect enough cash to meet his daily demands. Stay one day ahead of cash flow. And that brings us to the next one, strapped for cash. Typically, businesses that are started like this are strapped for cash, and unfortunately, many of them remain strapped for cash because they never challenge their pricing model. So Sam thinks that the pricing model that he uses when he started is going to be sufficient to scale his business. It won't be. So while Sam started out working like crazy and just loving it because it fed into his adrenaline rush. He just had a great time doing this. After about a year of doing this, here's how Sam feels at the end of the day. He's absolutely gassed. You can't keep doing that. And I can attest that as you get older, it gets harder and harder to do. So we don't want to let that happen. So how can we avoid it? Let's take a look at what the objectives are if I'm on stage one. If I'm on stage one, my objectives are pretty basic. I need to master the technical elements of my job. What does that mean? It means I need to learn how to clean and restore and dry and repair and remove spots. I need to master those technical skills. And when I don't, then I'm probably not going to be able to grow my business very well, or certainly not be able to make the profit, the money that I wanted to make. I need to be able to meet performance objectives of my job. In other words, earn more than I spend. If I can't do that, then I'm not going to be around very long. And then the third one is develop the skills to manage my replacement. If Sam is planning on doing that. If Sam isn't planning on doing that, then he doesn't need to worry about that. But if he is planning on getting off the truck or building a business that is not dependent on him, at some point he's going to have to do that. So those are the three objectives Sam has at this level. But he also runs into challenges. And the big challenges that Sam has at this level is establishing basic disciplines. What does that look like, though? Some basic disciplines are we have to be able to show up. If we show up on time and show up on time prepared, then we're really hitting the trifecta. So we have to be able to do that. We have to be able to follow through. We have to be able to honor our promises to our customers and to our suppliers. Those are some basic, really fundamental disciplines that we need to have. If we're able to communicate well with our customers, then that's another basic discipline. We also have to be able to balance our daily demands with learning to manage. The moment that Sam decides that he wants to hire somebody else, which is the next step, he needs to be aware of the fact that I'm going to have to gain those skills because I may not have them. He's got to manage cash flow. He has to make sure that he's profitable. This is a time when he's establishing brand awareness. A lot of times this is one customer at a time. While Sam might think that everybody in his community is aware of his business, they're not. Sam lives and breathes it, so it's natural to think that. But they're not. So part of his job is to build brand awareness at this stage. And then the other one, which is very difficult for many owners, solo owners, is learning to let go. If Sam never learns to let go, then he'll never be able to move his business beyond having a hyper dependence on him. That might be how he wants it, which is fine, doesn't matter to me. But if he wants to move it beyond that, he's going to have to learn how to let go. Easy to say, very difficult for many entrepreneurs. A lot of us entrepreneurs, and again, I'm speaking for myself here, we're control freaks. So we really like to have control over things, and we struggle with letting go of it. So what are some of the tasks that Sam is going to be involved in? He's a doer. He does technical work. That's what he does. He answers the phone. Too often, in my estimation, he does the books. My personal opinion is, and my advice to clients is, let's get a bookkeeper in. Doesn't have to be full-time, doesn't even have to be on your property, but we need a bookkeeper. They manage their schedules. They market to build brand awareness. They do the purchasing and the bookkeeping, or ideally they farm that out. They hire and interact with customers, and they show up on time. And that way customers like them. So what skills does Sam need? What skills does anybody at this level need? Hardworking and high energy. That usually is a given. Just about any business owner you talk to always seems to be driven and always seems to be hardworking. Now, the whole drive, driven to succeed, I'm going to come back to that as Sam's business grows and Sam has kids that he wants to bring into his business, because a lot of times that drive to succeed causes Sam some anguish, and I'll get into that when I get into that third step, or even the fourth step. They're inquisitive. Sam's inquisitive, wants to learn new stuff. He's disciplined enough to know that he's got to deposit the money, manage his money, which is where the strong management, money management comes into. Where does he spend his time throughout the day? Where is Sam spending his time? Doing. At this stage of the game, Sam's day is spent doing stuff. It's task-oriented rather than strategic thinking. So, Sam does it. He does it well. Now he's ready to move on to the next step. And this is where we're going to get into managing workers. Now, again, this can happen at different times. Typically we see it $200,000 to $250,000, but it can happen before that. You look at Sam's business. Now, here's his group. Okay, he went and hired some people. He's got some people on board. You can see that Sam's gotten a couple gray hairs there. He's wearing glasses now. So life is good for Sam. He's starting to grow this business, feeling pretty good about it. So what's the profile? It's still highly entrepreneurial. Sam still has to answer all the questions in the business. Sam's pretty comfortable with that at this stage. Most of us are. But at some point, we're going to have to give that up. But that's part of what that means. Sam is also nimble. In other words, the business is not so large that it gets caught up in too much structure to where people can't move around or they can't make decisions. So it is highly entrepreneurial. It is still a me-focused. Customers don't pay. Customers aren't happy. Sam still takes it personally. Employees quit. When employees quit us, that means that they don't like me. And that isn't the case, but that's how we take it too often. It's usually less than $1 million in revenue. And again, I'm even going to postulate that this is probably less than $800,000 or $750,000. Typically, a company this size is going to have between 1 and 10 employees. Now, if you've never managed people, you know that 1 to 10 employees can be a handful, especially as you start approaching 7 to 10. It becomes a real handful. And it continues to be strapped for cash. And it also becomes critical that Sam continually challenges his pricing model to make sure that he is still going to be profitable as he adds people. Because at this stage of the game, everybody is still a producer. Everybody is still a doer. They're generating, for the most part, they're generating revenue. So when he moves into a place where they're not generating revenue, his pricing structure has got to be able to support that. So Sam has a good team of people on board. Sam was never a good trainer, which frequently entrepreneurs aren't. And a lot of times we never invested time in learning to hire. So we spent all our time on technical skills, which is fine. We need that, but we don't want to ignore those other, what are typically referred to as softer skills, where we're able to identify the right people to bring on board, where we're able to develop people because they're competent enough to be developed. And too many times we end up with a team of technicians that feels like this. And unfortunately for Sam, he's got some expensive lessons to learn if this is what he's ended up with. So what are the objectives for Sam at this level? When you get into the objectives, what he wants to accomplish here, he needs to shift from doing work to getting it done through other people. This is frequently a very difficult transition for entrepreneurs because most of us are high energy. I'll even venture to say ADD, or we exhibit ADD behaviors, and we're typically scattered, and we like large motor activity. And so it's difficult to give that up and delegate it to somebody else. Another objective is to build cash and profitability, continue building brand awareness, and develop the skills to move to step 3. Sounds like it's easy. So what are the challenges that Sam's going to face? Managing our entrepreneurial behaviors. At this stage of the game, we're managing frontline workers, and so whether we decide to scale to that next step or whether we decide to stay here is immaterial. We still have to manage people, which means that we have to address our own entrepreneurial behaviors. I'm going to give you 6 of them here that you want to be aware of and that we see repeat themselves over and over. It is blurred vision, no accountability, heroic managing, E-drift, hiding out, and swollen ego. And I'll go through those again here with you. It's blurred vision. In other words, we have never articulated where the business is going in writing. It's still between our ears. That's called a business plan. Then you have no accountability. While Sam wants to hold his people accountable, Sam is having to learn to be accountable to them. Difficult transition for an owner or for an entrepreneur who signs their paycheck. Then you get into heroic managing. Heroic managing is basically the smartest guy in the room, or it's command and control. Then you have E-drift. E-drift is entrepreneurial drift. That is where it's ADD management, basically. It's where we constantly change and chase squirrels, chase shiny objects. We hide out. That's the fifth one. Most entrepreneurs are nice guys. Many of us are nice guys who got lucky. All right, and we don't like to be bad guys. And so having to have difficult conversations with people is very difficult for many of us because we want to be liked. So we kick that can down the road and we hide out from having to have those tough conversations. And then the last one is swollen ego. That one usually shows up when we've enjoyed some success. And all of a sudden, we find ourselves with making decisions based on our ego rather than on informed data. The second challenge that he has is valuing management, the activities. At this stage of the game, many times, and especially even at the next stage, many of us have to learn how to measure our effectiveness differently. And we do that when our businesses are smaller. We usually measure our effectiveness by how tired we are, how sweaty we are, how many hours we work. As our business continues to grow, we can't use those same metrics because we shouldn't be out every day getting sweaty and getting physically exhausted. We need to manage. So we have to be able to set different mile markers out there for ourselves. That's valuing management. This is where we're also establishing a corporate culture. Now, this happens earlier on, actually, from the very first day, but it really becomes visible here. And the way you behave, not the things you say, the way you behave is what's going to establish the company culture in your organization. So we have to be very conscious of that. We move from doing to getting things done. Our job now, rather than going out and producing revenue, is to measure the production of revenue and to measure profitability. This is also the time when you get up to around $750,000 when many business owners think in terms of processes and systems and procedures. It's normal. That's natural. And it really is when you need it because it isn't just you doing it. We have to have other people do it the way we did it, which means that we have to have a system that can be repeated. So this is about the stage of your business when we see these things show up, a big drive to get everything systematized in our businesses. So what are the tasks that Sam's doing at this level? He establishes the budget. He plans and schedules. He sets the performance standards for people. Sam's job is to track performance. And sometimes that's tough because occasionally tracking performance means I'm going to have a difficult conversation with somebody, but nonetheless, we need to do it. This is where Sam needs to learn to hire and needs to learn how to train and also how to discipline employees when they're not measuring up. We schedule, we conduct meetings, and meetings are usually a painful experience for many entrepreneurs, but we need to prepare for them and conduct them on time, on schedule, and then maintain open communication. That one sounds like it's so easy, but frequently at this stage, we're communicating with people the way that we communicated when we were young, with our siblings or with our parents or with our buddies. And a lot of times that is not appropriate in a small business when you're dealing with other people who have other choices, career choices. So it's really important that we learn different modes of communication, not just the communication style we had growing up. So what are the skills that we need? Communication. We need to become better, stronger communicators. While many of us are not highly organized, and I am absolutely talking to you while looking in a mirror here, while we're not particularly organized, it's critical that we surround ourselves with people who are organized and who we will listen to. Otherwise, we're never going to escape that. patient yet firm. We have to be good at execution and follow through. Basic understanding of financials, and here I'm talking about income statements, balance sheets, cash flow. We don't have to be a bookkeeper or an accountant, but we need to understand those reports. We need to understand that every number tells a story. Our job as the CEO of the company is to understand the questions to ask to uncover the stories, not to be the accountant. As part of communication, we need to learn to listen, give and receive feedback. And this is also where we get the first need to start trusting people. Very difficult for entrepreneurs. We're very slow to start to trust somebody. And then we make the mistake that once we do start to trust them, we trust them without verifying. And then about the time we get disappointed, we lose our trust. We have to rebuild it all over. So we have to learn how to trust people. Where are we spending our time? Less time doing the physical work, more time planning, measuring, managing, basically. We occasionally step back into step one. It's not uncommon, particularly with the more technical elements, but we want to pay close attention to how much of that time we do, to how often we do. The business succeeds and we grow up to $750,000 or $1 million when we move into I'm managing managers. So the profile, we can see that Sam continues to get a little bit more gray hair. The lenses in his glasses got a little bit thicker, and now he has a management team around him that are going to do a lot of the daily managing of the business, while Sam's activities move more and more into direction and guidance of the business. So, in managing managers, the profile is that it gets a little less entrepreneurial because we want the input of our managers. We want to listen to them. That's why we hired them. Now you see how it moved from a me-focused to a we-focused. Folks, this is about the time that we make comments like, yep, this is the team. We're going to get the team going here. Let's get out here and slay this dragon as a team. And that's what we do. And that's when this happens. We bring these people on and they're committed and they help us drive this train forward. At this stage of the game, we're typically looking at between $1 and $5 million and $1 and $3 million in revenue. So now we've gone from having a handful of employees up to as many as 40 employees. There's nowhere in the world one person is going to do 40 employees. That's why we have managers that we've got to be able to develop and trust. The other thing to understand is that cash speeds up tremendously at this point. If you thought it was moving through your business fast before, wait till you see this, because it really speeds up. So part of our development means that we need to get comfortable with the speed of cash and how to manage cash in our businesses. That's why we needed to learn those lessons when we were on step 1 or 2 of our business, so that we're prepared when we get to step 3. So we have managers that come on board, and the challenge with entrepreneurs is that most of us, I know this is a broad brush, and I'm talking in the mirror, most of us are not strong managers. We're not particularly good managers. We're just not hardwired that way. We might be good leaders. Many of us are reasonable rulers. But as far as managers goes, not so much. So it's difficult for us to see good managers. It's difficult for us to recognize those characteristics in people when we're going through the hiring process. And then, good heavens, once we get them on board, we figure that since they had the title manager in front of them, that they knew what they were doing. Well, they don't. They will continue to need development. That's our job. So too often when we don't bring the right people on, or when we're not developing the people that we bring on, this is what happens to our management team when we're not there. Or at least this is how we view it. Everybody's there just letting the inmates run the asylum. So we have to understand that our job at this level changes radically from what it was when we were managing frontline people. So what are the objectives? Mentally shift from managing workers to managing managers. Huge shift. Building a team. So now it's no longer about individuals, it's building a team of competent people and developing the skills to move to step 4. The challenges, as I mentioned before, going from step 2 to 3 is huge. This is where it becomes critical that we as business owners start working on our leadership skills. We can always be leaders, even if we're not hardwired to be strong managers. And it's critical that we develop those skills. We work from a strategic plan. When we have managers that are coming on board, they want to perform. They want to win. They want to build careers. And so that revolves around having targets that they're running at, which goes back to a strategic plan. Our challenge is to manage managers, to actually manage them, to communicate effectively. That the whole need to communicate effectively looms larger and larger as our business grows. And frequently that becomes a painful exercise and an expensive exercise for business owners. We need to be able to identify and hire effective managers. And this is where we have to be very careful to manage our egos. And I will tell you that from years of experience in working with business owners, and even watching very large organizations, when an owner's ego is out of control and he's making business decisions based on his ego, it is never a question of if the business will stall or decline. It's just a question of when. They all do, because you can't continue to grow a business on a swollen ego. So it's really critical that you learn to identify those things and that you become adept at identifying your ego and managing your own ego. So what are the tasks that we're going to be performing? We track progress of the strategic plan. That's our job. We establish the budgets and performance standards. We measure performance. We develop our people. A critical piece of your job at any stage of your business is to develop your people. When our business is smaller, we send them through training programs at IICRC, get their certifications. As the business continues to grow, those don't go away, and the need for them doesn't go away, but the need expands beyond the technical elements. So my job is to develop my people and to develop myself and conduct meetings. So in order to do that, I need to be skilled at communicating, even at a deeper level, organized. I have to be consistent with my execution. I need to be accountable to my managers. I need to build a team. And a lot of times it feels like being a parent or being a referee, trying to keep the kids from fighting. When you have a team of competent managers, typically that means that they have a lot of drive and a lot of strong opinions, and they don't always mesh. Part of your job is to help them mesh to produce the results you want in the business. A deeper understanding of financials and the ability to listen and to trust people. Those become incredibly powerful or necessary skills at that level. Where do you spend your time? Virtually no time should be spent in level 1 activities. Now, that's impossible never to be down there, but you really want to pay attention and take a look at that 5 questions on that card again. Okay, is this an activity that you should be doing, or are you doing it because you're comfortable doing it and familiar with it? We need to be able to communicate with reporting supervisors and managers, planning and measuring. That's where you're spending your time. So our business continues to grow. You continue to grow as a business leader. And now all of a sudden what we're finding ourselves doing is managing different functions within the organization. Coordinating probably is a better term, the different functions in your organization. And frequently what happens is you're really shuffling papers. You're moving papers around. You're looking at reports, something that many entrepreneurs don't particularly care to do. I call that the entrepreneurial paradox, where we grow our businesses to a size where we're performing tasks and activities that we don't particularly care to do and that we were never trained to do, but yet we have to do. So this is about where we find ourselves. So this business is doing greater than $5 million. Really, your business is doing probably $3 million or more at this stage. It now becomes a them-focused business. Remember, we started out with a me-focused, very inner-directed. Then we went to a we-focused, where we had a management team that we were going to go out together and beat all the competition and slay the dragons. And now it becomes a them focus. It's no longer about you or about me. It's about the people in our organization. They're the ones who are driving this thing. At this stage of the game, there's typically a different energy in your organization where your people are driving this thing forward. You're guiding it. That's your job. Them also refers to the communities that you serve. And I'm not just talking about the neighborhoods around where you are. I'm talking about the different communities, the community of the industry that you're in, the communities that you might be networking with in your local area, as well as your geographic area. So our job at this stage of the game, the company's job at this stage of the game, is to be a good citizen. It's to give back. It's to have a them focus. The management team typically is established. Some will come and go, but typically you've got people that have been with you a while, are highly committed to the mission of the company and to where the company is going with the vision. Again, usually at this stage of the game, you're going to have 30 or more employees, so it's a larger organization. And frequently, this is how you feel with all the paperwork that is going on. Sometimes it feels like you just can never get out from underneath that burden, even with electronic technology. What are the objectives at this stage? To gain a fundamental understanding of the different functions. Fundamental understanding, not expertise in any particular one, although we'll always have one that we're strongest in. And then learning to work with a team of talented managers. That's a critical thing. That is also a really sweet spot. When you're in that zone, we'll call it, and you have a committed group of really talented managers, it's a joy to work with them. They make you better as an executive. So the challenges that we face, there's a term that I was introduced to a while back called technology debt. It's where it has to do with software, and it has, if you don't update your software constantly, you run debt. In other words, you're going to have to catch up at some point because all your competitors are doing it. We see a leadership debt issue. If you aren't constantly working on your own leadership skills as a business owner, then you're automatically falling behind. And if you decide at some point that, I want to catch back up, I want my business to start growing again, you've got a debt you got to pay. So you're going to have to work doubly hard just to catch up where everybody else has moved before you can move on beyond them. That's why one of the critical things you always want to do as a CEO is continually develop your own leadership skills. Another one is understanding the unfamiliar and maximizing department performance. So a lot of times we don't understand how to measure the different functional areas of the business. Well, those are things that you can learn. It's learning to work with a management team. Again, these are people with usually strong opinions. And then this is also where you become the chief cultural officer. Your job is to manage the culture of the company. And you do that primarily through your actions, not through your words. So the tasks that we're performing at this level, we do the planning, we do the establishing of budgets, we measure performance, we build the management team, and we continue to conduct meetings. And what you're finding at this stage of the game is that more and more of your time is spent in meetings, even if they're stand-up meetings, but they're still in meetings with people to continue to guide the business forward. The skills that you're going to be working on are understanding how the departments work together, communicating, harmonizing the efforts of a talented team. You notice I did not say balancing the efforts. It's harmonizing the efforts and understanding business finance. Your time is spent driving the strategic plan, mentoring your people, modeling the culture. That's your job as a CEO of a business this size. And when you do that well, you move to that last step. I'm managing my business. You can see that Sam has grown into a business leader here in this picture. Excuse me. He's had a lot of success in his business because he's continued to grow. The important thing to understand, folks, is that businesses in general, small businesses in particular, are a reflection of their owners. If you want to grow a business, grow yourself. It's that simple. The moment you stop growing yourself, your business will stall. Your business will stop growing. So if you want to get your business moving, then you want to start developing yourself. So the profile here is that it's a mature company. It continues to be a them-focused, and your management team is established. But somehow, even when you've got everything working right, and you've got great folks on there, Sometimes we just never quite leave that feeling like, oh my gosh, this is all going to fall apart. Or, oh my gosh, what if I don't really know what I'm doing? We have those self-doubts. That usually doesn't go away. So the objectives at this level to successfully lead the business forward. Not just the managing, you're leading it forward. You're meeting long-range goals. Your succession plan, and I'm not talking about, again, necessarily when you're selling your business, it's having that strong group of people coming up behind you and then developing your successors. The challenges that you face are shifting from doing it better to doing it at all, balancing the importance of the known with the unknown. That's scary. Creating the team and then keeping your ego in check. You always want to be challenged in that, and it's extremely difficult to do that at this level when your business has been successful. Your tasks are modeling the vision. That's where the culture comes from. Evaluating opportunities for the future as well as threats that might lurk in the distance. Managing cash flow, leading, tracking performance, evaluating opportunities and threats. Your skills at this level, they continue to evolve. Now we're talking about emotional intelligence, where we're talking about we recognize our behaviors, we can manage our own behaviors. We're empathetic toward the people around us. We know how to build strong relationships with people. That's what grows your business. Strategic thinking. I mean, you can see these things. But this is the level that you're at. And this is why I made the comment at the outset. You don't have to be a $5 million company to have these things. I can tell you that I have worked over the years with companies that are far smaller than that. And the owners of those businesses have exhibited all of these skills. And it's critical that you do that if you want to be successful in business and enjoy it. Your time is spent developing the team, tracking performance, community involvement. That's your job as the CEO. So let me offer a couple closing thoughts here. Again, I'm going to go back to, as you look at that staircase, keep in mind that everybody in your organization is on one of the steps. Frontline technicians, supervisors, managers, everybody. And everybody's looking up that staircase at you. Okay, because people in your organization are never going to move beyond you. And they're paying attention. So when they see you doing things that are not appropriate to your level of the staircase, they start questioning their futures. Or at least the good ones do. And so they're watching you. The good ones also help coach up. They coach you. And they should be. We don't always like it, but that's what they should be doing. We're either facing up or down on our staircase. So that's what you want to pay attention to. Which direction are you faced on the staircase? Here are the 5 questions again, folks. Again, if you are interested in receiving that little card with the your professional development questions on it, email me at office@violand.com, and I would be happy to send those to you. And Jennifer, with that, I will turn the microphone over to you, and if there's any questions, I would be happy to address them.
All right, great. We do have one question in the queue. If anybody else has a question, go ahead and enter it in the question box, and we'll get to it in order that they come in. The very first question is kind of a long one, but it is, what are your thoughts on seeking a partner for someone who has been an owner-operator for 24 years, who has been unable to let go? I've had 2 employee techs in the past and generally have had good results. However, I'm more comfortable doing it all myself. I thought ownership in a company would instill a drive to thrive. Am I completely foolish?
That's a complex question. Jennifer, can you read the first sentence on that?
Absolutely.
I want to make sure I understood that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me highlight it because when more questions come in, it keeps moving up my screen. So, what are your thoughts on seeking a partner for someone who is, so he's looking for a partner in his business instead of somebody to just maybe hire to help?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I am generally not one who likes to bring partners on, nor do I recommend it to clients to bring a partner on. I mean, that's a serious commitment. And if I have control issues where I am slow to let go of control or to trust other people, the last thing I want is a partner. I would rather, if I'm going to bring one on, I would rather learn those skills with a non-partner, so that if we part ways, I mean, it's easy to do. If I've got a partner, it is not easy and usually not pleasant. So I would not, unless there's extenuating circumstances, Jennifer, I would not suggest that.
Okay. We have a couple people asking for copies of the presentation. We record these presentations and then we put them up on our YouTube channel, and they're available to you on the Certified Firm website and the toolbox area. But if you would like to email me, it takes about an hour to download the presentation and then get it all put up on YouTube and make it look pretty. So if you just want to email me, as opposed to me sending you all my email address in the chat box, I'm just going to tell you it now. It is jpetersen@mulberrymc.com. That's JPETERSEN @MULBERRYMC.com. Or you can just reply to the invite. I think the reply email is my address as well. So here is another question. What are some of the questions or characteristics you look for when hiring? For a small business in step 1 or 2, do you prefer going, oh, this is a two-part question. I'll just answer we'll do the first one first. What are some of the questions and characteristics you look for when hiring?
First of all, is character. You look for values, you look for character. You hire that. You can train technical skills at any level. So the first thing we look for is, do they share the same values that we do, that I do? And I can tell you from personal experience with clients that we've worked with over the years, as well as here at Violand Management, when we hire or when a client hires somebody on who might have technical skills out the wazoo, but they don't share the same values, it doesn't work out. And so you always hire to that first, and then you go to the technical elements. Did that answer that?
I think so. Second part of the question is, for a small business in step 1 or 2, do you prefer going through a hiring agency, or do you prefer to hire someone on directly?
I don't have a preference. Well, at step 1, well, actually at either one of those, I don't really have a preference. Normally, I will tell you that normally we go through ourselves. We go through, we have the client do the recruiting and hiring at that level, and we have some tools that we provide them, questionnaires and this kind of thing, scorecards, to vet good candidates. But I would suggest doing that. But here's my biggest recommendation for that. Either way, whether you're doing it yourself or going through an agency, make sure that you spend enough time with the candidates. And if a 10-minute or 15-minute interview is not enough time, you should always have at least 2 interviews with a candidate, first and second interview with the candidate. Never hire on one, and never hire without checking references. And I'm not talking about personal references, I'm talking about business references. Always do those 2 things. And if you can, then get, especially for higher level employees, it's not uncommon to be in 2 and 3 interviews. I also strongly suggest, if you have somebody else that you can bring into the interviewing process, your spouse or somebody else in the organization, to go through the process with you, it's always helpful, because they will bring a different view, a different perspective than just one person. So, yeah.
Next question, what is the desirable hierarchy for a $5 million plus range?
I'm not sure I know what hierarchy, what the questioner is asking by hierarchy.
Yeah, could the person who asked that question please expand a little bit in the question box? We'll just get to the next question in the meantime. Can you speak to the challenge of hiring a manager in the autumn of one's career with respect to trade-off?
That's a great question.
With the trade-off between the time it takes to train and expense and mentor versus doing it yourself until you sell the business.
Yeah, it just depends on what you're after yourself. But that's a very good question. If you're comfortable where you are, then you're probably not going to go through what can be an aggravation and the work that's necessary, the risk that's necessary in bringing a competent manager in. And when I'm saying comfortable, I'm also talking about we fall into these patterns of interaction with the people around us. Okay, and if we've always been the big dog in the office, it can feel challenging when somebody comes in with their own opinions and they start questioning the things we're doing. They're doing their job, but we're not viewing it that way. Now, if you're serious about your business not being dependent on you or surviving beyond your work career, and that's what's really driving you, then you'll go through the aggravation. I can tell you, me personally, I rely on strong managers around me because, and I'm just speaking personally here, they hold me accountable. I've got to actually perform, or they're going to get rid of me. So, but that's a good thing, not a bad thing.
All right. Back to that question. It is, what is the desirable hierarchy for a $5 million plus range? And he said levels of management below owner/general manager.
Oh, okay. Yep. I'm sorry. I interrupted you, Jennifer. I apologize.
Oh, no, I was going to say that's what he meant by hierarchy.
Okay. So you have the general manager. We're not talking about equity positions. Let's start with functional positions. You have a general manager. Underneath that, you're going to have your four managers, probably 4.5 managers. You're going to have admin and accounting. You're going to have you're going to have an accounting manager or an administration manager. That person will probably have somebody under them who handles HR part-time. You don't need a full-time HR person yet. Okay, so they're going to do that part-time. Then you go over to your next. So HR is underneath administration. Then you go over to your sales and marketing. I'm going to have a sales and marketing manager, and then I'm going to go over to operations. Underneath operations, let's go there for a minute. Because that's usually the one that expands. You go over underneath operations, and you're going to have division managers. At $5 million, typically you don't want to look at a department manager who is a full-time manager until you're over $1 million in revenue in that particular revenue stream. Now, that could be mitigation, it could be reconstruction, it could be contents cleaning, it could be rug cleaning in your cleaning business. So typically, you don't need a full-time manager. You're going to have a supervisor. So we're careful with using the term manager. But then that's what happens there. Underneath your sales and marketing, you're going to have more than one sales and marketing person. So you're going to have sales reps or business development reps underneath that. And usually you're going to be bringing in, you're going to have contracted services for some of your SEO and that kind of work. You go over to administration, and underneath that, you're going to have data entry people, you're going to have customer service people who report to the administration manager. Did that answer the question for the questioner?
I believe so. For me, it did.
Okay.
What services do you recommend that someone at step 1 should focus on providing?
That's up to them. Again, a business is a lifestyle. Our businesses are lifestyle businesses. We build them up around what we want to accomplish in our lives. So my question to the questioner would be, what is it that you want? If you don't want to be bothered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, don't go into water damage. If you want a more predictable career, I would suggest starting with cleaning. And I would probably recommend that you combine commercial carpet cleaning or commercial cleaning. I'm not talking about janitorial, but commercial cleaning with on-location services, whether those on-location services are carpet cleaning, upholstery, carpet repair, that kind of thing. So I'll probably have a combination of those two.
Okay. Next question. How should an independent or startup compete against larger franchises?
Yeah, that's another really, really great question. At the end of the day, the most unique thing the small businesses have, the biggest differentiator they have, is the owner, especially in the startup phase. You can't get you anyplace else. So whether this is a franchise, whether I'm competing against a franchise or another independent, the only place you're going to get me is at my company. So I am at that stage of the game. Early on, I'm going to promote that. And your skills and your commitment, your customer service, people will buy that. As you grow the business, then it becomes important that you extend that beyond you. And that's why the culture of the company is so important, that you can sell that to your customers. I have not found And I don't believe that our clients have found that competing against the franchises is a huge obstacle or an insurmountable obstacle at all. Build your own brand, your own unique brand. Keep in mind that if I'm a franchise, I'm going to be asking the question reversed. Okay, in other words, my identity is tied to that franchise and the identity that that franchise has in the customer's mind. That can either work for or against me.
All right. Is an offer of employee ownership counterproductive to growth or viewed as a motivator for the team?
I don't know I don't know that it would stifle growth. Again, I'm going to go back to you have a lot of voices, and that's something that employee ownership is something that I would thoroughly think through before I would go down that path. I'm not saying don't go down the path, but I would want to know the reasons for wanting to go down the path. Are you at a stage in your business or in your life where you're looking to exit and you're thinking this is a good direction to go to perpetuate your business? Or is it just that you're viewing it as a retention tool? You're afraid people are going to leave, which I'm not sure is a really good reason. Okay.
And it looks like this is our last question that has come in. What are some of the best ways to find clients?
What is the best way to find clients?
Yep.
Wow. That's a great question. You'd think I'd have a quicker answer, huh? So many things have gone digital that I would absolutely have a strong focus on digital and social media, a strong presence, and that includes SEO. I wouldn't rely on that, and I think a lot of people do. It's a tool. Along with that, I would also have a personal presence. I would be out networking with people. I would be out visiting people who can refer work to me, whether that's flooring dealers, designers, whatever it is, depending on what they're going after. If it's carpet cleaning, that's what I would be doing. And so I would have both of those avenues working strong. I think a strong web presence is critical.
All right, it looks like that is, another one came in. Oh, no, it didn't, just a comment. All right, we've gotten a lot of comments saying thank you, excellent presentation. So we just want to thank you, Chuck, for joining us today, taking time out of your day.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
We had a great webinar. We want to thank everybody else for joining us. Stay tuned to next month. We'll be sending out the invite in a couple weeks. Thank you again for joining us, and have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you very much, folks. I appreciate it.